how did FIFA 20 predict the West Ham team to look in 5 years? So FIFA 20 was released at the same time as the appointment of David Moyes at West Ham. But could FIFA 20 correctly predict what the West Ham team would look like in 2024? First up is Joseph Van Aang, but in reality he's flown his wings to St. Pat's Athletic in Ireland. Next up it's Nathan Trott. In reality he plays for FC Copenhagen in Denmark. First unrealistic prediction is Roberto. IRL he retired at Valladolid in 2022. Next up they predicted Darren Randolph to be around for the longest time. In reality he's currently a free agent, recently playing for Bournemouth. Next up they predicted Giovanni Banguera to be the #1 goalkeeper. He's currently bench warming for Juarez de Cordoba. Next up is Jeremy Ngakia, but in reality he now plays for Watford. Next up is James Bree, who's still doing fine for himself. This time he's at Southampton. Next up is Ben Johnson, who's played well past his FIFA 20 potential, spreading his wings at Ipswich Town. Next up is Ryan Fredericks, who IRL is doing well for himself at Bournemouth. Next up is Adji Elise, who's whittling away at Sunderland. Next up is Miguel Araujo, who's wasting away in the MLS for Portland Timbers. Next up is Fabian Balbuena, who's not in FC, currently playing for Dinamo Moscow. Next is Niklas Landgraf, who's nowhere near this rating, about to play 4th tier football in Germany for Hallerscher FC. Next is Gonzalo Cardoso, and he's currently living the dream at Lokomotiv Sofia. Next is Sander Silva, and he's doing okay for himself at Atlanta United. Next is Dan Kemp, and he seems to have found his ceiling at Stevenage United. Next is Yunus Delphi, tipped to be the next young Iranian superstar, but never made it in Europe playing his football back in Iran. Next is Alfie Lewis, who never made it into the Premier League. Has been a free agent since January 1st, 24, last playing for Dundalk in Ireland. Next is Conor Coventry, who IRL has seems to have found his ceiling in Charlton Athletic. Next up is Josh Cullen, who in FIFA 20 correctly predicted his potential, but in reality Josh Cullen is enjoying relegation with Burnley. Next up is Nathan Holland, who never really hit his potential, last playing for Forest Green Rovers, having been a free agent since the end of the 23-24 season. Next up FIFA 20 predicted the star player to be Anton Miranchuk, but in reality he's a one-club man, last playing for Lokomotiv Moscow, having been a free agent since July 1st, 24. Next up Manuel Landini is predicted to be a West Ham legend, but in the real world is about to enjoy his 3rd season at River Plate. Next up Bernardo Rosser is still a sub, but in reality he's living the mid-table dream for Czech side Pardubice. Next up is Louis Watson, who is still looking for his big break at Luton Town. Next up Cookie Salazar was predicted to be one of the star players. We'll have to wait a little bit to play as him in FC 25, as he's with recently promoted La Liga 2 side Cordoba CS. Next up is Umut Nair, currently his homeland playing for Konyaspor. Next up is Felix Plata, who's nowhere near his potential, currently playing for Spy Bundesliga outfit FC Paderborn. Next up is Oladapo Afolayan, and he's currently enjoying himself playing for German side St. Pauli. Next up is Sead Hakshabarovic, still doing well for himself in Sweden for Malmo. And lastly, Keito Nakamura, and judging that he's playing 2nd tier Japanese football, never lived up to his potential. Which team should FIFA 20 predict next? Most like common win.